What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, according to recent reports and according to sources, undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence "Bud" Crawford. 38 wins, no loss, and no draw. 29 big wins by way of knockout. 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Is looking to have the biggest fight of his career against undefeated, unified, 3-belt WBC, WBA, IBF welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be top 2 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, if not the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Errol the True Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is 28 wins, no loss and no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. They looking to stage this fight. The roadblock initially was seen to be the fact that Terence Crawford was signed with legendary promoter, Top Rank CEO Bob Arum, ESPN, and Top Rank. And the two sides, since Errol Spence is with PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, founder and advisor Al Heyman, and Showdown President of Sports Steven Espinosa, and at one point in time, he was even with Fox. And so that was a hurdle. That was a major roadblock, bringing the two major networks together to get a deal done. Well, now it's being reported, since Terence Crawford has left Top Rank and Bob Arum, that it seemingly would be easier to be made, okay? Now you hear a lot of different reports now. Since Errol Spence defeated and became a 3-belt holder April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, against former WBA welterweight world champion, Cuban star boxer Yordenis Ugas, in which he stopped Yordenis Ugas in the 10th round, breaking his ribs, orbital bone, and nose in that fight. Errol Spence started aggressively pursuing and letting the world know he wanted Terence Crawford. Now, Terence Crawford himself was coming off the biggest win of his career against 2-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, retired, future Hall of Fame welterweight in Showtime Shawn Porter. That was November 20th of 2021, okay? So it seemed like it should be easy to be made, and it seems like there's a hurdle, and many people pointing a finger at Terence Crawford for this fight not getting made and announced. This week, we had Dan Raphael, former ESPN boxing reporter, analyst. He came out and he reported that he got word and he got wind that Terence Crawford and Errol Spence are close to having a deal finalized and announced for November 12th or November 19th in Las Vegas, okay, for the massive Undisputed Showdown. Then there's reports now that came out from a few reporters and platforms that stated that Terence Crawford was offered $14 million for a 3-fight deal, and that fight includes Errol Spence, okay? This is the report that's coming out. I personally don't know anybody else's sources, I only know mine. But to give my opinion, everybody's asking me what's my thoughts on it. If this is true, okay? If this holds to be true and this is the case. Now, obviously, Terence Crawford, we know he hasn't done the biggest pay-per-view numbers in his career. He's had 3 pay-per-views, and they weren't the most successful. He had a pay-per-view against Victor Postal, reportedly did 50,000 pay-per-view buys. Then he did a pay-per-view against Amir Khan, and it reportedly did about 150,000 pay-per-view buys. That's total 200,000. And then his last fight with Shawn Porter was a pay-per-view event that reportedly did about 140 to 150,000 pay-per-view buys. So you tally those up, okay, that's 350,000 pay-per-view buys combined. Well, Errol Spence, reportedly, he's done 4 pay-per-views in his career. First one was against 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia, which reportedly did 350,000 pay-per-view buys in itself. That doesn't even include the other 3 pay-per-views he did. Okay, so the buck could just stop right there. We know he's a bigger star. He's done bigger gates, as Bob Arum, who I had on my show yesterday, reiterated that he does bigger gates and he sells out more tickets at the arena than Terence Crawford for sure. He says he is a bigger star than Terence Crawford, and he's a bigger draw. There was reports that Errol Spence was looking for 60-40. He publicly stated 60-40 would be suffice to make the fight happen. Terence Crawford team, trainer manager Brian McIntyre, stated that they have the leverage because they have what Errol Spence is looking for, which is the WBO title, and it has to be 50-50. So this was a seesaw battle going back and forth as to who's right, who's wrong, amongst the fans and the boxing pundits and the media, okay? Then Bomac, he came out and he stated that they never had any contact and any, dealings with trying to negotiate with Errol Spence. Well, Bob Arum, he came out, he stated that's not true. He attempted to make the fight. They just couldn't get the fight over the hump, okay? And so now this is being reported that a 3-fight deal with the PBC for $14 million. My thoughts on it, and do I believe it's legit? There's many reports coming out that the PBC just simply doesn't have the money. We know Tim Smith, PBC's spokesman, he stated that, the money's just not there to make a fight with Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, because Terence Crawford is just simply not a big star. And there's reports that, the well is running dry with the PBC finances behind the scenes, okay? And that the money is just not there to be able to pay the fighters what the fighters are looking for. So with that said, $14 million for Terence Crawford is essentially a slap in the face for 3 fights. That's less than $5 million a fight. $5 million a fight would be $15 million. Terence Crawford, Errol Spence is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. If this were to be true, now I have no clue if it's true or not. I don't believe it's true. For 3 fights, $14 million, it's just not acceptable. And if I was Terence Crawford and his team, I wouldn't accept that, right? I know there's a lot of piracy in the sport of boxing. There's a lot of, fans that just don't want to pay for fights. And largely in part due to the fact that the sport of boxing just don't deliver the fights the fans want to see. They don't deliver, the big fights on a consistent basis, okay? A lot of times you get the sport of boxing that sells fans tuna fish and tell them it's steak. And the fans have woken up. They found a loophole. And so when there's pay-per-view, fans find a way not to pay for it, but to watch it because they love and entertain. The sport of boxing entertains them, but they don't want to pay for it because they're not getting what they're asking for. So you can't go to a department store and ask for a certain product and pay your hard-earned money and they give you what they want to give you. Eventually, you're either gonna stop shopping there or you're gonna find a loophole. And that's what the fans have done in the sport of boxing. They found a loophole, okay? And now the sport of boxing is attempting to stop the bleeding, but it's just, I believe it's far too gone, okay? As Bob Arum stated on my platform yesterday, if you have a teenager, a young adult in your house, middle school and high school, they know how to find a way to stream the fights, right? And it's just every household now. Everybody knows how to find some sort of way or to watch the fight without having to pay for it. And so if this is the case that PBC, I have no recollection of the PBC possibly, not having the money, but if this is the case and the PBC just doesn't have the fundings and the finances to be able to fit the bill for Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, well, then they have to find another way. Maybe they have to find an investment group outside of the country. Maybe the fight has to take place. I know everybody would love the fight to take place in the States, but if financially they can't support the fight, then the fight needs to take place outside the States. And there's no way that if I'm Terence Crawford and his team, that I'm accepting $14 million for 3 fights. That's absolutely not acceptable. Because 2 of those 3 fights is going to include, should he be successful, Errol Spence and Jamel Charlo for less than $5 million a fight. That's just not acceptable. And if I'm Terence Crawford and his team, I don't care how big the fight is. I don't care how what legacy is on the line. I'm just not accepting $14 million for 3 fights. It's just not respectable. Especially when and granted, I understand that Canelo Alvarez, 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer, is considered the face of boxing, and he does have the Mexican fan base that supports him. But you turn around and you look at it and you say they offer Canelo Alvarez $100+ million, $45 million to fight Errol Spence, $50 million to fight, $55 million to fight Jermell Charlo, or vice versa. That's $100 million, and then $10 million to his opponents, which would be Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo. And you can't come up with a better number to pay for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. You know, if I'm Terence Crawford, no, I'm not accepting it. And if this is the case, then, well, let's not expect to see Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Let's prepare ourselves now to see them have Plan B, period. So that's my thoughts. I highly doubt that that's the case, but who knows? But if that's the case, prepare yourself to see Plan B, because there's no way if I'm Terence Crawford, I'm accepting that for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Errol Spence did a live gate of $5 million in his last fight against Yordenis Ugas at Cowboy Stadium. Just the gate alone. Okay, so we got to find a different way to get it done, or we're not going to see it, because that's just not respectable to Terence Crawford. It's just not. He averaged about that per fight with Top Rank, and he wasn't fighting nowhere near the biggest fight in the sport of boxing for Undisputed. No. But that's all I got for y'all. Let's see how this all unfolds and plays out. Hopefully it gets announced. Hopefully this is not true, but that's my take on it, my thoughts on it. Let's see how everything unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to new media. Shout out to Black Media, bro. Make sure you like the shitty videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.